last episode, we saw the first stirrings of life within the ever-beautiful Vale of Eternal Blossoms. But the endless infighting of the once mighty Titan-forged Mogu cast a dark shadow over the land. But from amidst this chaos, a new power will rise. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and come, take a seat by the fire as we journey to the heart of a warring kingdom. Lei Shen was born the son of a warlord during a terrible age. His childhood would pass without note, until the day that his father was betrayed and assassinated. A not too uncommon occurrence for the time, unfortunately. But Lei Shen, rather than seek revenge, would choose to go into exile with what loyal guards he still had. He spent these next years not fighting, but rather meditating. Rather unlike his kin, he did not hunger for conflict. Instead, he hungered for something much more. He wanted conquest. Seen as strange by most of the warlords at the time, his lack of eagerness to fight was perceived as weakness, that he would never be a threat. One day, however, Lei Shen would announce his intention to wake the gods themselves. Summarily dismissed by the others, he searched endlessly until coming upon the entrance to an ancient underground Titan vault, one that snaked throughout the region. Fearlessly, he took his followers and journeyed within. He did not have to search for long within to find what he sought. There, in all his glory, was the Titan Keeper Ra, keeping a stoic vigil, guarding the miraculous Titan machine, the engine of Nalak-Shar. His mind swirled as he posed question after question to the Keeper. But alas, after many weeks, there was no reply. Lei Shen thought initially, maybe that the Keeper was contemplating some grand plan. But he was wrong. Upon realizing this, he flew into a blind rage, his harsh words waking Ra from his slumber. He told him of the hopelessness, that the Pantheon was dead, and the great work was no more. Swiftly he turned upon him, binding and subjugating Ra in a flash. He looked upon the once mighty Keeper and only felt disgust at his weakness. He did not deserve his power, he thought, as he ripped it from his flesh. Not only his power, but the dormant spirit of Aman'Thul, drawing the power of storm and sky unto himself in a swirl of hatred and fury. His followers would fall to their knees, proclaiming him forevermore the Thunder King. Returning to his people triumphant and renewed, he would no longer tolerate their weaknesses either. He would begin his plans of conquest with them, building an empire the Mogu way, defeating his rivals one by one, until all of Mogu kind was united under his banner. He would turn his attention now to the world. First, he would start with the races that had sprung up in the Mogu's preoccupation with infighting. The savage Hosen and the spiritual Jinyu would be the first to fall. Wholly unprepared, they would be subjugated swiftly, knowing it was helpless to resist. They would make perfect slaves, but for the grand designs of Lei Shen, he would need many, many more. While his power and influence grew, he plumbed the depths of knowledge from the Titan machinery now falling to ruin. Each new discovery he and his closest followers made would increase their power tenfold, even so far as learning to shape flesh and stone into new creatures. Alas, one race stood up in defiance to the absolute rule of the Thunder King. The Pandaren people would fortify themselves in the great mountains of the Kunlai. He would make a show of them. This would become a pattern for the king. As his power grew, so did his hubris, believing himself to be untouchable. As his army marched on the mountain, he would hold them at bay. With a mighty bellow, he would offer a challenge to the Pandaren. Should any of their warriors best him in single combat, they would have earned the right to be free. At first there was silence. Only the howling of the icy winds could be heard. As he was about to turn in disappointment, he stopped. A voice answered his challenge. The mighty white tiger Xuen would answer and fight for his people. The wild god was powerful and commanded the lightning himself. For 30 days and 30 nights the two godlike beings clashed, leaving devastation in their wake. But even the mighty Xuen faltered to the titanic power of the king. While he applauded the tenacity of Xuen, he could not let this defiance go unpunished. He bound the white tiger to a prison atop the mountain. For all time he would be forced to watch as his favoured children, the Pandaren, were made slaves, a shining beacon of his failure. While the Thunder King Lei Shen was brutal and egotistical, his reign did not come without benefits. Creating a unified language, establishing the first set of written laws, creating free trade and a standardized currency, even building a mighty structure named the Mogu Shan Vaults, one of which to house the artifacts of the Mogu and even the souls of their most honored ancestors. There was one race left within his lands, the Mantid, but he knew no show of force would convince them to bow before him. There was no subjugating the ruthless, ancient followers of the old gods. He instead built the Serpent Spine, a great fortified wall to hold them at bay. As time into his reign pushed on, some of his most prized followers known as the Karun clan would come to him, with an artifact born from their dark research into the Titan technology. It was known as the Divine Bell, and it had been cast from the flesh of Ra that they had cut away at. The terrible artifact, when wrung, would empower his forces with hatred and anger, while striking fear and doubt into the hearts of his enemies. It resounded through the foundations of the world unto the heavens, and Lei Shen named it Shen King, meaning voice of the gods. In an unusual move at first, Lei Shen came in contact with the Troll Empire. Seeing their might and ferocity, he chose not to conquer them, but instead he would ally with them. He would promise them a plot of land in the endless bounty that was the Vale of Eternal Blossoms. But in secret he would also teach them something, containing the knowledge of how to resurrect him from death, a secret he did not trust to the Mogu. The Thunder King surveyed his kingdom, and was not satisfied still. He could not give up the search for power. To this end he would look to the lands to the west, to the lush jungles of Uldum. Titan technology also permeated this land. What more secrets could he rip from them, he thought. But this was under the care of powerful Titan Forge named Tolvia. However, like many of the others, they had succumbed to the curse of flesh. They had waited patiently for further Titan instruction, hoping to eventually hear from Ra. Instead, they would receive a message from their neighbors, the Mogu, and they dispatched ambassadors at once. The Thunder King showed them the wonders of the empire he had built, but when he told them of what he had done to the Keeper Ra, they recoiled in horror. They would refuse his offer of a place of honor within his empire, and would forge a path of their own. They returned to their people, in full knowledge the king would be coming for them next. They correctly surmised that they had no hopes of defending against the Mogu Empire, and began to leave a trap instead. Lei Shen, now ready for war, invited his Zandalari allies to see his conquest. Not to help fight, but to observe his prowess. Once there, the Thunder King and his armies poured into the jungle lands of Uldum. but only very few Tol'vir stood to oppose him. He laughed and scoffed at their cowardice. But these brave few were not here to fight, but distract him. They then unleashed one of the ancient weapons of the Titans, the Forge of Origination, releasing a blast that eradicated all life in the lands of Uldum, sacrificing themselves. The once fertile landscape scoured into sand. Any living creature was killed instantly. Much of the Mogu forces and the king himself were killed, as well as many of the Zandalari who had come to witness, which included much of their leadership. This blow to the mighty trolls could be felt for generations to come. What Mogu survived took the body of Lei Shen and enshrined it, while the Tol'vir used their magic to seal their lands and the weapon away from the rest of the world. While a new emperor would rise to take control of the Mogu, we will have to see if it can ever be the same or even reach the great heights of the mighty Thunder King. But that's for a future video. Thank you so much as always for all the support, everyone. It means more than you know. And don't forget to come back anytime.